Hello, Misha. Welcome to the Builder's Mind podcast.
Hi, dude.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Nice to see you as well. After a while, it's great to have you today here. 3 months ago, I was scrolling on LinkedIn, and then I saw a very kind of somehow sad post that you're kind of shutting down one of your startup and then starting the other one. So I had these two feelings. I was a bit sad because we talked about mowaAI, for a bit, but also I was happy that you're actually, moving on to a new startup. So this podcast or this episode is very special one because we're going to talk about two of them. But just before jumping to the topic of both the startups, I would love to hear more about how did you end up to building a startup in general, and what was your journey looking like?
So I don't know at which point I have to start, but I always felt strange about fitting into the standard working hours. I remember during my studies, I was afraid I will never be able to force myself to work 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, because for me it was just strange. It didn't fit for me at all. I want to do something on the weekends, on the evenings, and it ended up that I worked. First of all, I had the first job. I had the flexible schedule, so I made a Wednesday day off. But also, I do a lot of stuff at the evenings, at the weekends. Back then, I was focusing on machine learning, so I dig deep into that and studied that. And and for me, it was, I'm a kind of stubborn person, so I kind of forced myself to fit into that at the end. But it was hard. I always felt unnatural. Still, like whole career, I was looking for something new, always exploring. First job was an employee in a startup. Then I went to the huge company, to the Cisco in the United States, started work there doing research. Then I went to the university doing research because I wanted more. And then I went again to some other big company. Then at the end of the second big company, a liquor in Poland, I was thinking that maybe a startup is my thing still. So let's give it a shot. And I went to go to the startup as a first-time employee to see how it works, what people do, and basically, for myself internally, the risk in this option. And I saw, it's there. After that, also doing some savings, I saw that there is no reason to not doing that at all. I looked back and I always found a reason, go fully all in. I always thought about that, always explored some ideas, had brainstorms with potential co-founders, but we never started. And then so I decided that no matter what, I'm just starting. Like I decided, pushed for me the deadline, had an idea, and said that no matter what, I will just start. I start to look for co-founders, and no matter how it will go, I will just start doing that because I couldn't find any more reasons not to do that, basically.
But kind of what were those reasons which were kind of, keeping you from doing the startup, like building your own idea? Was it more like financial or like more kind of not finding the right idea or match with the co-founders?
I think the main reason was that, the first reason is that I found one other shiny thing that I was following for years. It was machine learning. I just found the passion and followed that for a while. So that's kind of offset it for me, the need for the startup they had before I found this passion. So I followed that for years until, it became the routine. I stopped, I ended up exploring everything I can there. And then I had, just to find something new. So I think this is one reason. The second reason is, financial. I just didn't feel comfortable to just throw everything and just go in without any money to survive. And I would say that after you have some career for years, you can just, put some money aside and also afford to do that. So this is, I would say, the second reason.
And in all your startups that you were working, were you only in the technical side, or did you also were in charge of some business functions, or how was it?
Actually, my first job was somewhere in between because I went to the clients' meetings. So I was it was also a small company. It was like a startup still. So it was everyone are doing everything, but I was in between the technical and business side. So I went to the meetings, I was coding, so I doing all the stuff. But then I went hardcore into the tech stuff for a while because in the big companies you couldn't do everything. You have to focus on one thing. So since it was a big companies, but I always missing the second part of that. That's why I went to some hackathons, found some people, organized some stuff, did some noise, some hustle, and it was always somewhere around. But yeah, in the startup, you can do it full time as a job, not like as a side.
Yeah, it's true, true. So tell us, how did you come up with mowaAI idea, and how was the beginning of the journey, like the ideation, validation, and how did you find the co-founders? And was it you coming up with the idea, or how was it?
Yeah, actually, it's a cool story. Actually, it was the times when I still found some reasons to not to do the startup. That I don't have enough money. I know I can do something else. Blah blah blah. But I for years I noted down the startup ideas I had in notebook app. I just had a note where I have all the ideas listed one by one. And I've been on Canary Island with my friends. Actually, one friend, we were on the beach, and I found this note, and I said, "Oh, do you want to listen to my stupid startup ideas?" And I started reading aloud all of them one by one, and then somewhere in the middle, he said, "Huh, this one is good." You're kidding. They are all stupid. My joke was, my idea was that, you write down the idea in the evening, and the next time in the morning you read it, and you're thinking, yeah, this is so stupid. There is like 1,000 reasons that it won't work. So I had the same feeling about all my ideas. And then the guy said, why wouldn't you try that? It's kind of cool idea, actually. And the idea was actually, it was back in 2022, or before the 11 labs and other, text-to-speech generation companies. It was around that. And I saw the trend that actually technology is getting better, and soon we will have the good quality generation. So a lot of the stuff can be built around that. The guys just, questioned my opinion that all these ideas are bad. And I started to think about it. And for a month, I decided that no matter what, I will just start this. And then I just, went from my network, and basically the plan wasn't to build, some huge billion-dollar company, but to start doing your own thing. So we went through the network, talk with my friends, and we just got up to friends, and we started, hiking on the weekends and after work.
And how did you convince your co-founders to also, build conviction around this idea?
With this idea, it was quite easy. I just said that, you know what, I have this idea. I will start it, no matter what, I will start it like from September, after the holiday, after, the hot summer season. So if you want, you can join, and that's all. And then just two of my friends said, "Oh, that's actually sounds quite interesting. Let's start. Let's do that."
And was it a full-time switch for all of you?
Actually, no. We were still quite careful there. We were working, as I said, hiking on the weekends and evenings for a few months. But the more I worked on that, the more I realized that I just, at my regular job, I was feeling, a bit, I didn't have any motivation at all, basically, because I have something interesting to do, and I just didn't start to care about my regular job. And it was the same case for all of us. So one day we just said, let's give it a try. Let's do full time. We all have some runway for personal savings. Let's just go all in. Let's see what will happen. The worst scenario is we come back to work, and it's not a big trouble. It's not the worst that can happen in your life. Let's do it.
Can you do a quick picture of mowaAI for our audience? Because I know a bit about it, but maybe the rest.
In the last iteration of mowaAI, we were building, because we are obviously in startup we had a different pivot, so it was different pitch, but the longest one was that mowaAI was an AI data analyst that provided you the insights from your data without the need to have any technical skills. So this was the
no code data software.
Yes. This was the main idea. And I can continue talking about that, but maybe you will navigate me with the questions because I can talk a lot.
But can you kind of walk us through what were the main use cases for this, and who did you think to sell this to?
Yeah, so we targeted at the people who needed to get the insights. We basically went to the data analysts a lot, but didn't get but with the data analyst, with the person, you create a ticket, create a request for analysis, and you have to wait for a few days, sometimes few weeks. The idea was that those non-technical business people with their questions to the data can do it themselves we were focusing on the customer support vertical because in customer support, it happens that to some of the customer support employee users are coming with some questions, and people who are like serving the customers, they have no idea where to find the answers. So this was our focus. So basically, all the user facing role was also with the finance companies. There were also people who are basically on the phone with the customers.
Mm-hmm.
This was our last iteration with the product where we narrowed down to specific personas.
Okay. And then what happened, that you guys decided to shut it down, and like how was that decision made?
If you are talking about the reasons why it happens, I think our main mistakes, like looking back, was to go to the big companies, to the big clients as an early stage startup. Because with that, we couldn't iterate fast. It was the very strange situation where you as a startup want to move fast, but do a lot of things, but you just have to wait. You have to wait. No matter how many big customers you have, you don't have this iteration. Your feedback is very slow. So with this, it's really hard to get to the product market fit if you have such slow iterations. And basically what happened is that at one moment we realized that we with this like product to iterate with these customers, we will not make a startup. The product itself was quite heavy on the integration part. And we saw that it makes sense more as a consulting business or a sourcing business because we saw that companies inside internally, and I see right now a lot of companies are building such solutions internally. So for us, it was, the stick that we kept, the reason why we have to continue, because we see that everyone are doing that, why they need to do it themselves if we can provide them this as a product. But we realized, that it has a very expensive onboarding and customer maintenance, so it actually doesn't scale the product. But the problem was that to figure it out, we spend a lot of time, unaffordably a lot of time for the startup. So we were running out of money, basically. And we had the idea for the pivot around the customer support space, where it was like the last month of the startup. We had the idea, we started to validate that. We got the first signs of the validation. First story validation it sounded much better than before, what we had before. But the problem was that we sit down, we started to, to think about okay, if we go with this idea, what will happen? When we will have the first clients, the first revenue, happy path. And the happy path looked like that we will still running out of money. We will still run out of money. And some of us just couldn't afford to continue without any money. They needed to go to any job because they were drained on the savings as well. And the company was draining the money. Some of the founders were also drained on the money. So the decision was that, okay, we have to, the mowa as it existed wouldn't exist anymore. So yeah, and then they made a break for a month and didn't do anything. But the idea of Parsera that I build it right now already, it appeared during the work in mowa when I just looked for some leads, and I was surprised that nothing like that already exists. So for me, it was the idea to go the number one in my list after the break.
Just to stay on mowaAI for a bit, is that, did you guys raise money? Because I think you guys have gone through Techstars Berlin program. Was it for a different startup?
Yes, we went for the Techstars. We had money from there. We started fundraising, and in the process of fundraising, we basically realized that this business model wouldn't work as a product. And we just decided to shut down the fundraising and basically decide what to do, because we saw that it was obvious for us that we have to pivot and continue the fundraising when you're pivoting. Remember, it's not the great fit, because you have to completely change your pitch. Maybe it's better to validate the pivot first and then go.
Yeah, just from your experience, so how much time founders should give themselves to chill a bit, without having any traction, meaning paid clients, and hoping that, okay, they will find a client and then they will get this validation that, okay, their tech is working, what they're building is good. Because you guys spent more than almost 2 years, yeah? So
it was different ideas, but with the idea that we stick the most was 1 year.
1 year, yeah.
We were iterating with the different customer profiles. And if we narrow down to this specific customer profile, it was a bit over than a half of year, say.
But do you think that there could be some signs, except detraction, does that kind of tell you early on that, hey, you maybe, be faster if you want to change things, or if you want to even like shut it down? Because even if you don't shut it down, for like quickly, then it just more time you spend, and then zero sum at the end.
Yes, yeah. So I think there are, like there are no one right answer, because every startup is still unique. All right, you have different business models, you have different customer profiles. Some startups just like, sometimes it's good, like your product will work only for the big companies, and in this case, you have to have very, very strong conviction to proceed without the feedback. So I would say, if you want to go to the big companies with a very slow feedback, and you didn't have any like feedback, like you have some talk, but yeah, like they will say that the product is great, blah blah blah, but no one will tell you that you're doing something stupid. So with the big companies, if you have strong conviction, if you have some insiders, or it's yourself insider, you've been like deep into the industry and know who and how you can sell that, yeah, then you can continue. If not, and even if you are, and if you can find the faster feedback loop, it's always worth to find it, to hug the way to the feedback loop. Even with our product that we built, we can still hunt the smaller companies, smaller customers, and get a quicker feedback loop and go back to these big companies later. But we were like, we were never agreed on going to these small customers inside our team. We were like, there was some opposition to that. So I would say the main thing is to chase the as fast feedback as possible. Just, because you almost never have the objective view on what you're doing. You're too deep into the context. And if you're often getting it in front of the people, getting the feedback and seeing whether they use it or not, then it's the sign whether it makes sense or not. That's why it's also, I see a lot of examples when companies prepare for a big launch. And I think that this can just kill your startup if you will prepare for the big launch. Just launch as soon as possible, and just give it to the customers, to anyone to just use it. If you have any retention at all, even for the free product, it's better than take the big launch that no one will ever like be interested in. It's like chase these things step by step and start from like just getting some retention, getting some customers who are using this product, who love your product.
Yeah, because like somehow your product can never be in a perfect stage, that like you can imagine that, okay, it should be perfect, it should have all the features, and then we kind of release it, and then everyone is like, wow, it's the best product.
Yes. Or
to go,
it can be the perfect, but no one will use that. And
yeah, exactly.
What's the point?
Or sometimes with some tools, it's a bit too complicated, because it has everything, and then it's hard for the customer to navigate through everything because.
Yeah. This also some happens.
Yeah. And then, but just I met so many founders, and like some of them, they asked me the question that, okay, what if we fail? What happens to our reputation? What happens, to our career? And can we, get another job or start new startups? So kind of what's your practical tips for those founders that they think that failing a startup is kind of a hard no, and then it's a slap in your face, and then you are rejected by community and whatever, life is a bit over. So what do you want to kind of tell them?
I think if you really like work hard on your startup, you probably grow as a person, as a founder a lot. You're just learning a lot. I think that the startup, like these 2 years, I learned the most in my life in terms of the amount of learning per day. You always developing, you're getting your skills because you have a very strong reason to do that, because your startup will die otherwise. But in case your startup still dying, you're keeping all your learnings or your experience. I don't like, now one of the founders who, after the startup failed, now one of us, are now laying under the bridge, bankrupt without any money. It's not the case. To my current founders, they found the job where they come back to the careers with a completely different perspective of how things work, of what's the company, and also they better understand the role of themselves in the company, and then can provide better value to the companies, even the companies they worked for, not their own companies. And this also boosts your career. You just open the eyes with a startup. You open your eyes on a lot of things in the business that you probably didn't realize before you were you sit in the chair of the founder.
True, true. But also, I think founders, they overestimate somehow the fails by the big corporates. You know, if you look at all these big corporations, they build so many products and some of them work, some of them not. Like looking at Apple Vision Pro, they canceled the program even, and they sold so many of them. You know? So I think it's just like failing and learning and then iterating is part of the journey.
Yeah. And you have to fail fast. If you're failing, it's good. You just finish this and you can try again. You can start from scratch and fail again if it's and learn more. And one day you will. The more you fail, the higher is the chance that this time it will be different.
So I'm gonna quote you on your LinkedIn post that you shared, and you're saying that the experience completely reshaped my perception of business and power of human connections. So can you elaborate on this, at what, like how exactly it kind of reshaped your business and the power of human connection perception in your mind?
So yeah, this is actually, I think I referred to already. In terms of the business, you just better understand the role of the person in terms of the business, because when you're like working as an employee, you always look on the business from the bottom. You're looking as an individual and from your interests, and you're very good at understanding your own interests and interests of the others around you, but not necessarily the company. And the bottom, you don't have the top-down view on what's going on. But yeah, the word, like, for example, if you're an engineer, you're in an engineering bubble, you think that, yeah, this is important. Other stuff are not so important because you find them easier than what you are doing. But when you look from the opposite perspective, you see that, you're only delivering the product, you're delivering the part of it. And without the rest, without the other, it can sound trivial still, like for anyone who never experienced that, but you're still like the small part. Like the engineering is only the small part of the whole business. And sometimes the business can survive without you, as well as you're thinking that the business can survive without anyone else. It's not like even your department is irreplaceable and it couldn't be, dropped out of the company. So in terms of importance, it's comparable with all the other verticals. This is what you're like realize as a technical person, that without the marketing, your product would suck, no matter how good it is. And it's just necessary. And in terms of the human connections, what I saw is also like the networking. You hear a lot about the networking, but as a founder, you're just doing a lot of that. You're doing a lot of that, and you're feeling the power of that, by yourself. And you also realize how it works, that it's not as hard as you expected. You can actually access a lot of great people if you want to. If you really want to, you can access very great people and have a conversation, have a coffee with them and learn from them. And this is the one aspect. The other aspect is that actually a lot of the business is itself like based a lot on the networking connections. Actually often decide how well everything will go.
That's true. Yeah, kind of like your community, your network drives a lot of factors, and how could also even like make your first sales or like do an intro that might never get,
Yeah, like hiring, sales, fundraising. The more people the better, because they can also feel that I have strong technical network. So finding anyone technical for me is just, I can do it in one evening. I will have 5 options from my network for any technical role. So, but finding someone strong in marketing, not necessary.
Just ask me for that. No worries. But moving on to Parsera, can you tell us what is that, and who are the ideal customers, and what are the value propositions, like 2 or 3 of you are pushing for that?
Yeah, so also like Parsera is now in the interesting moment there where we are like working on the different product, which will be based on the existing product, but I will get into the details a bit later. Maybe as I already mentioned how it started, it was back in the mowa times when I had to extract some of the leads from the website, and I saw that basically the only option for me, like there was a website, there was, just the list of the people, LinkedIn's names, surnames, and companies. And I just wanted it into some spreadsheet. And for me to do so, there were only 2 options: sit down and write the code down and code the scraper, or copy and paste all of them manually to the table. And in terms of the time, that actually copy pasting made more sense. And I felt that it's so stupid that I still have to do it manually, because I understand that like with LLMs, the promise is that there will be agents to do everything. We now will have like automatic salesmen, coders, marketers, but I don't have any LLM that can do this simple task. So it's like, and I couldn't find it like back then. Now there are some products that are doing that. So well, yeah, this is like actually a good idea. Noted it down in my list of ideas that I still and just after the mowa finished, I had it always back on my mind after during the mowa. Like, it's actually quite a cool like product that can be useful. So yeah, it was the obvious choice for me to start. And yeah, then I just started to hack for that. And what we have right now is the product that basically you provide me the link to the website. You describe me the columns that you want in the table, and it will extract from this specific page. It will extract you all the data that you can find.
Just maybe just like jump to the demo then, as you're talking.
Let's do that. Share my screen.
Meanwhile, so did you find a co-founder for this one, or are you doing it alone?
Yeah, I have two people working with me. I have co-founder, still like a part-time guy, but the idea is that he will be a co-founder sooner than later.
But like,
so yeah, this is the web Parsera website. If I will open the app, I can, as I mentioned, I can here provide the website link, the described in the columns. Let's go maybe with example actually of your fund. I think I have the page opened. Yeah, I have the page open here. So Filler Capital. And here we see the list of portfolio companies, right? Let's try to extract. So yeah, let's say I'm I'm LP that wants to give some money to the venture fund, and I want to see what companies Filler Capital invested. So I just take in the website link, and say I want name, and there was a company name of the portfolio company, and link to the portfolio company. And let's pick, since you're in Latvia, let's pick the Latvia as a proxy.
What this kind of proxy country means, because yesterday I was like using this tool and then I was like, okay, what does it mean, to be honest?
So in some websites, they don't provide you the access from specific locations, basically you to the website. And also some websites, they show different data for different locations. This is like the two reasons to have this. Yeah, so let's just submit and let's see what we will get in a few seconds. Yeah, so, and we also have the two modes to extract. We have the precision mode for the cases when standard mode cannot handle that, because it digs deeper into the page components basically to extract the data. Yeah, so as you can see, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 companies here. And yeah, I knew some of them, so it seems that it makes sense. And we can see them here as well. But yeah, this is the small example. We have features, like we have an API with a bit more features. Actually, one very important feature is called cookies. So if I want to extract the data from LinkedIn or some other website where I have to log in, I need to log in somehow, and we providing the option to send the cookies to extract the data in this way.
Yesterday, I tried the LinkedIn one and it didn't work. So for that, I use the API.
Yes. You have to extract the cookies and send them to Parsera. And at this moment, we have this feature only in the API.
And so kind of, how does it work from the technical side? Is it more of like that it takes the image from the website and then the AI is changing the image to the text, and then it puts the filling information, or yeah, like how is it from the technical side?
Actually, I prepared that you can ask that, so I can even show you a slide if you want.
Let's do it.
So this is a slide from my talk last week, so I can just take it from the presentation. Basically, when you send when you mention all this, you describe the columns, entering me the URL and setting the parameters. It goes to our servers where we go with the proxies, which are used to pick location. And also they are necessary for us to not getting blocked, because it looks for the website as a regular user, not the server. And then we render the website, because modern websites, they have a lot of JavaScript. So you have to render them first to get the content. And then it's converted to the text representation, which later processed with the LLM, and LLM returns the JSON or CSV file to you that you can download. And and basically the precision mode we have is just the different conversion mechanism. It just keeps more data for LLM to extract.
Okay.
Yeah. But also it's like almost all of these steps we also have open sourced, as our engine is open source. So anyone who can cook for coding can try to set up your own Parsera without some it's missing some features, but in general you can do the same fiddler capital scraping with this library.
But what does it mean then? So kind of in terms of business for you, and you just allow people to have the code and then like no users for you?
So I would tell you the secret about the Parsera strategy. So what you see right now is we call it stage 1 of the product, where we extract the data from the website with the LLM. The issue is that it's very hard to scale. If we go to the companies that are really, for whom the scraping is the core of their business, or they do need a lot, because every website is processed with an LLM, it means that it takes a lot of compute, which means a lot of costs. So we are now working on the solution that we are calling stage 2. It's almost finished. We plan to finish till the end of this year, which instead of processing every website with a large language model, it generates the code for scraping. So you can only process the page once, and then you're using the same code until it breaks. If it breaks, the model will fix that and it will work again. So this way if you extract, let's say it's a marketplace, it's an Amazon page. You generate the scraper once and you process thousands of Amazon pages with the same output. You don't need to call them for every of them. And this is what we are working on. This is not open source. We wouldn't open source that. And this is what we are like. This is our bet in terms of actually our main product. And this Parsera that we have right now is basically, my co-founder called it, we are building a unit test for what we will build next. So it's just used to make sure that the code is correct.
And normally how do you come up with the first product version from the idea? And what are the factors to kind of consider? Or maybe let me put like this: how do you conceptualize an idea into a product in the first stage?
So idea itself is usually based on some problem, right?
Yeah.
So all ideas I have, they are from my personal experience, from my own problems I experienced. So if you already understand the problem, the solution is just the product is just the solution of this problem. So it just has to solve the problem for the way how you see the solution for yourself. At least it has to solve this problem, and then you can go with it to the customers and polish the product vision a bit to actually satisfy what they need. But if your idea is based on the problem that you understand, it just has to solve it as a product.
Okay. That also means that you somehow skip the validation part, talking to customers, interviewing to potential users, or
no. For Parsera, their idea was also to launch it very quick. Where it was the first version was developed in 3 weeks and was released, and they were the first customers. And then I also went to the calls with the people, and the problem was that the solution didn't scale, because I go to talk with the people for whom it was like crucial part of the business. And they also tend to come to me themselves and ask me about the product. So I saw that the scale is the issue. Mm-hmm. And this is like how the stage 2 became even more important. Because originally I started with the approach that will be scalable, but I found out that this is not something that I can easily kick off in 2 weeks. So I decided to first build this stage 1 and scalable version and see what will happen. Let's validate that. Let's see whether it's not only in my head, there's a useful product. And I saw that the people are coming. I get great feedback. It went a bit viral on Reddit. So I get, the first signups and a few payments. When I think about it myself, the problem was this scaling. It's becoming, essentially, we are competing with developers here. With scale, it's cheaper to hire a developer with the stage 1, but the next iteration will be in terms of the cost, the developers. And me personally, as a developer, I never like to develop the scrapers. So I'll be happy to outsource this for some LLM. And usually, if you will, when you talk with the companies, they very often outsource that. It's it's usually low skill labor, with some exceptions, of course, where there are some websites which are very hard to crack. But this is also not our target with this product.
Yeah. So what happens to the security part? Like some websites might have kind of a bit more restrict security, or not really is it all the websites can be a script?
Yeah, for me, it was a bit of the surprise. I also had this worry. And for me, the discovery was that basically the only way to protect the website from scraping is to not show this data to anyone.
So, like that.
That's why, for example, the LinkedIn, if you will start, for sure, you use as someone who worked in the fund, you use it extensively. They will start to block you just from anything if you use it a lot. If you search a lot of people a lot, they will start to block you from search. The main reason is just prevent scraping, because this is the only way that is guaranteed, basically. If you don't show this data to anyone, no one will access that. And that's why the LinkedIn datasets are so expensive. There are also, occasionally we find the examples where we couldn't pass the protection, but it's the case when there is something custom. It still can be fixed. We can just add more and more layers that basically mimics the usual user's behavior, and it's impossible to crack. Even the very hard captchas, usually they don't work it because they break user experience, and they only trigger when there is something suspicious happening. And if you don't behave suspicious, you will not get this captcha. If you have the captcha, there are solvers for captchas. So there is also the arms race between these two kind of tech, but it's always scrapable. Basically, it's just a matter of costs.
Yeah, for me, I use some of this Google extension scraping tools, and then my LinkedIn got closed for a day or two, and it's the message was that you're using this tool to extract data, and you're kind of punished for that.
I've been blocked once as well, but without any tools. I just spent too much time on LinkedIn. Basically, they blocked me for 1 day.
For me, it's my WhatsApp, and I got panic attack. I was like, if I lose my LinkedIn, I just lose everything.
Yes.
Everything is going to zero. But so now with this first version of the product, are you making any money? Because I saw saw the credit option there. If you're over credit, you have to pay for it.
Yeah, we have actually cover a bit of the revenue. It's a small amount. It's not something that can, keep the startup. It's, it's not how it's called, ramen profitability. It's not there, but we got the great feedback for this product from no-code and low-code people who are doing the workflow automations. And we had some revenue actually from them. This is the people this is not the one, something that I'm very strong at, because I prefer to code it myself, not to use no codes. But for these people, the scale is not the problem, because they don't, usually they workflows, they launch them a few times per day. So it's not the issue actually. And from these people, we get a bit of the revenue, but our bet is not on this market. We're still focusing on those people for whom the scraping is really essential part of the business. And we see that for them, we can provide much more value once we will be able to scale. But we also started to put a foot into this no-code space, because why not? We had the first traction there. So we discovered a month after it happened that the tool called paved, for example, there's someone from communities Trueless, based on the open source contributors, that someone just contributed our Parsera to this tool, and we discovered only the month after that people are just doing it themselves. Also, we started to integrate with the other no-code tools, basically, because if you are integrated with these tools in the systems, it's very convenient for the people. They can just put the link to the website and extract the necessary fields. In case of the automations or data enrichment, both works fine.
There are lots of this no code, and also there's this coding AI tools. I see now a lot is Lovable and then Coursera, Replicate. So my question is that aren't you somehow competing with this AI coding solutions that people might want to build their own tools and then kind of over the weekend and then not use yeah.
So basically here it's the only common theme is that we both generate code, but it's completely different setup, because first the main challenge of all these code generators, like for the general purpose code generators, let's call it like that, is that they try to solve every programming problem possible, and they try to be good at everything. And for foreseeable future, I don't see it's possible. They can speed up. I'm using that a lot, but it's still like a pilot. You always need to oversight that. Sometimes it makes completely stupid things, and you just have to drop it and do from scratch yourself. So it's a one game. Our game is that we don't try to solve the whole programming. We don't care about that. We're solving the one small programming problem, very specific one, where we can actually build around the pipeline that makes sure that this code is generated. And in the case of the web scraping, actually, the great part of it is that we can, without any person, we can check if it's working or not. Because we already, like with the existing Parsera, we can see what data were on the page. So it just has to provide this data. So it means that it can iterate with the feedback. Basically, the feedback is not we can get the feedback without human interaction, and it makes it working much faster. That means that it's completely different approach to the code generation.
Yeah. So from my experience talking with some founders that they're building developer tools, what they find hard is that it's really hard to sell initially the tool to developers, because developers are somehow overconfident about their abilities, and they're not, kind of, because they see so many tools every day, and they're a bit hard for them to try everything. So they're a bit like, okay, if it's not very good, I'm not gonna spend my time, or maybe I can just code it for myself. So my question is that, how do you approach the sales process? Are you gonna, what channels or what strategies are you gonna use to actually get them to use it and pay for it?
Yeah, that's why I also mentioned that we are focusing on the companies for which the data extraction is the core of their business. Like the companies that doing the market analytics, price comparison companies, e-commerces. For them, it's not a problem. Like they wouldn't consider, oh, wow, maybe for them, real alternative is, okay, we can hire 5 more developers to be able to handle 200 more websites. And you just come with them, and you can come to the product saying, okay, guys, we can handle these 200 pages without any developers. And your developers can do something else. They can fix your bugs in your product, or they can add some more features. You don't need to worry about the data. We will handle that. We are not approaching we are not approaching the developers, but the companies for whom it's important, like this data extraction. For them, the value is obvious. Even let's say the developer in the team, they have restriction that with 5 developers, we can handle these 100 websites. That's it, no more, because then we will have too much to support, too much to fix, and that's it. And then you comment and say, guys, you can just handle 10 times more just with this product.
But do you think that you can actually build a platform around this data scripting? Because for my case, we scrape the data of participants for the events, founders, and then we kind of see which founders fit our criteria. And then actually, we do it, and then we just get it on the Google Sheet, and then just do that. And then we have a Google Sheet for every event. But now that I'm thinking loud with you, is that maybe actually it could be a platform where you can store, all this different list and somehow like use it, like differently and somehow make it more of actionable a bit, not just in like Google Sheet and then see the links and that's it. Forget about it forever.
Yeah. I think that for these type of customers that are, not the core of their business and they already heavily invested into the extraction, data extraction, the no code actually sounds like a solution because you will see, for example, we're now considering integration with the clay.com. Not sure if you heard about it, but it's basically doing what you mentioned there, right? You're doing the data enrichment. You have some table that's already built in the no code for a specific use case, and we can just plug in there. So for now, we see that for this less sophisticated customers, these kind of tools can work with us. But we, as I said, now our bet is the companies which already invested into that, and for them, just having they begging for something like this basically.
And what will be the point that you will go out and fundraise for Parsera?
I would say the run profitability is the minimum.
Okay, but if the profitability is the point, then you guys should reach. I mean, like 1 year is also a possible business somehow, or like
yeah. But I would say that if you're talking about the conditions, the first one is run profitability. You couldn't grow for that.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't grow at all, but you at least prove that it makes some money. The second is the demand. When the main factor is the demand. When we feel the demand, that basically we can have much more customers if we can serve them, then we will go to the fundraising, because then the money will allow us to actually get more and more customers. That means to grow, basically.
Do you feel a bit of pressure because of AI and lots of people building, all like such tools with the help of AI and also with AI itself?
In this specific niche, not really. I see a few products that doing something reasonable here, but there are some niches where a lot of people are building this the same thing. So, but in general, I think that it's actually not a problem, because with this new tech, a lot of products can be built, a lot of new systems can be solved, which in the past were unsolvable. So you can just find something that it's not crowded yet. And there are a lot of such things, really a lot, because this tech is started to really go these generative models. They really became very useful 2 years ago, and there are a lot of things that still can be built on top of that.
Okay, great. Moving to our last part of the episode. So I'm asking random questions which might not be relevant to each other. So I would love to hear your opinion on them. First question will be, I see you created also a community around data nomads lab. So can you tell us what it is and why did you decide to create that community?
So why did we decide? Maybe let's start from the community itself, because why it's a philosophical question, maybe. And this, what's that? Basically, it's a community of the people who are working with the data. By those people, we mean data engineers, data scientists, and ML engineers, who are also tend to be the people who are expats or from the other countries. And since I'm in Poland, we have the expats in Poland. And this is the community we organize. Our target now is 4 big events per year. Plus, we have also regular and less formal meetings like the dinners, the breakfasts, the beers, etc. So this is it. This is shortly about our community. Now it's over 400 people here in Poland, mostly in Warsaw, but also we have some people in other major cities of Poland. And why it's really hard to tell, because it's the when you have the community, when you just can exchange the knowledge, you can better understand what's going on around you. You have the great network, so it's all about that. You have the network of other people who are in this industry. You can learn from them. You can change the knowledge with them. So I think say that this is why, in terms of the main reason. The second reason is that. Maybe why it happened so easily without a lot of effort in terms of collecting the people and finding it's a bit of natural, how it's happened naturally, because of the fact that in Poland you have more and more people coming from the other countries, and that they just looking for the communities, just looking for networking, especially the people who are working in tech. There are a lot of them coming to the Poland. And the Polish ecosystem is historically focused more on the locals. And we all made, the entry point for those who are not local.
Yeah, so what do you think are the top sort of hubs in Europe in terms of cities that you can pick, except Warsaw?
Depends what you're doing, I would say, because in your preference, I would say it will be different. So it's hard to tell, to be honest, because if you're in finances, it will be one set of locations. If you're doing startups, it's the other.
But in terms of chill and funding,
in terms of the startups,
yeah, in terms of ecosystem and funding, options and access to talent, for example.
So in terms of this, Berlin is probably one of the strongest places because there are a lot of stuff going on there historically, right? Paris recently also feel like it's quite strong. There are a lot of companies coming from this location. So I would say this. And in terms of the outlier where you have a small country with surprisingly a lot of things going on, it's Estonia, it's Tallinn.
Yeah,
because in terms, like if you visit Tallinn, it's a kind of small city and you feel it's quite small, nothing's going on there. But if you take a look on the data, you realize there are a lot of things are happening there. So I would highlight these locations.
Yeah, it's a vibrant community in Tallinn and like the whole Baltic ecosystem is kind of very good.
Yeah.
Moving to the next question, you mentioned that the financial aspect was one of the reasons that kind of kept you from moving on to build your own startup. Just if you would, kind of name just a random number, how much might feel, be good or like might be enough for a person to move on to build a startup, like how much saving they should have?
It's hard now because now I would say if I could back in time, I would not do so much savings as I did. Because I was very conservative. I'm the person who tend to spend really not a lot of money by standard of the Warsaw. So for me, I saved for a lot of runway for a few years, and I definitely it's a strong overkill. So I would say if you are in a position where if you're in a job, in a career where you can relatively easy find the job. What I mean is that in a few months, you can find like well-paid job. Half of a year is more than enough to go validate the idea and decide what's next. But the more you have, the better, because you feel less pressure, you feel less stress, and the stress never helps in the work because you just then become too focused on doing anything, and it limits your creativity basically.
Yeah, and you have more money to pivot or change your startup ideas,
Yeah. That's also true. But if you like really have a good idea, it's better to validate than regret in 2 years and see some others for building the same stuff.
Yeah. If you weren't building a startup, what would you do in the States?
I don't know.
Going around and doing nothing.
It's hard. It's really hard because for me, it's like, not building a startup. Then my first thought is, okay, then I will build something else. What I can build. It will take some time to think what else I can build.
But Misha, so let's be a bit pessimistic and let's say that, okay, if Parsera will not work, the next step for you, like hopefully it will work. And
yeah, the worst case for me is just to go back to the job. Just work. That's it. Yeah, if I'm running out of money, you just have to earn it somewhere. So you go back to some big corporation and do some more savings, and then thinking whether you want to try again or not.
Yeah, true. So 2 last questions. One is that, what is the one advice you wouldn't give to a founder?
I wouldn't give. I have a meta answer on this question.
Go ahead, no worries.
Be careful about advices. It's actually trust your instincts. You have to trust your instincts more. No one has an answer, and any advice you have to double check. Better if you hesitate, better trust yourself, because you're your founder. you have the best context. You know the most. If you hesitate, just don't spend your effort and time on this advice. Just skip that.
My last question, you have met some investors along the way, and I'm sure even now you're meeting them. So what is the one advice you want investors not give to founders?
Investors not give to founders.
One or two advices, because we talk, like investors like to talk, and
investors like to talk, but do they really provide a lot of advice? I don't know. Like investors,
let's imagine the investors in your a company, and that they already invested, or the investors which have a bit of more like close relationship, so they kind of allow themselves to give you advice. But what's that one advice that you think that they shouldn't give it?
I think the advice about the overall strategy of your product, of your company, the direction, because this is the example of the case when you know better. If you're doing your job, you know better, and this one is often misleading, and you can have strange feelings about this kind of advices because you don't feel them at all. But you start to question yourself. Maybe you're missing something, and then instead of moving the startup forward, you start to hesitate.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Thank you so much, Misha. It was nice doing this with you. So thanks a lot.
Thanks for nice talk.
Yeah. Cheers, man.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.